Good morning. It's 9 a.m. time to call to order the July 28, 2022 meeting of the Oklahoma City Airport Trust. Our first item is to approve the minutes of the June 23, 2022 Oklahoma City Airport Trust meeting. Is there a motion and a second? All right, and the item passes. Next on the agenda is to receive the Oklahoma City Airport Trust 5-year capital improvement plan and presentation for the fiscal year 2023 through 2027.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So I've got a couple of slides I'm going to run through just to give you a background and then have some information in front of you that I want to go over also. So this kind of lays out the next 5 years. You can see some of the numbers that we have in there. So this is our snapshot for fiscal year 23, and you can see as you go further down the calendar, the numbers get smaller, but they will get larger. It's just that's the projects we plugged in for those fiscal years, but you can see that our fiscal year 23 capital budget is historically about the same as it's been for a number of years. Obviously, the big project that we've had the last couple of years has been the terminal building expansion. That's now been replaced with other projects since we're wrapping that project up. So next slide, Melissa. So we have a number of locations, as you know, that we're responsible for. Will Rogers is the WRWA, and that breaks down the projects in $133 million over the next 5 years. Wiley Post Airport is next, and then Charles E. Page Airport, and then MMAC, the Mike Maroney Aeronautical Center. So that kind of gives you a snapshot of where the money is going. Next one. And it includes all types of things. Airfield, of course, infrastructure, facilities, landside, buildings, equipment, parking and terminal. So it's based on need, and it's based on funding availability, especially when it comes to airfield improvements, because we rely on FA grants for a lot of that work. But gives you then a snapshot of how at this point, the 5-year program is divided up into various types of projects. Next slide. As I mentioned, AIP grants, which is our FA funding source, comprises certainly a large portion of that. But the trust itself funds a fairly large portion, and then the Mike Maroney Aeronautical Center, those funds ultimately come from the FAA to pay for the improvements there. And our passenger facility charges are collection from each airline passenger of $4.50 that then is allocated to various projects. Generally in the terminal building is where that's allocated. Keep going. So here's just some visuals. Our big project that we're involved in on the airfield is, as you can see, runway 1331. And on the picture, the area that's in the dark to the left, upper left, that's actually been completed, and that's now concrete. That's shown as asphalt there. And the area in red there, colored, is the area that we're kicking off here this year to do phase 2, to reconstruct the rest of that runway. And we received funding for that from the FAA, so we are planning to move ahead. Another project is we were able to get a grant from the FAA as part of our terminal access roadway, and this will be a multi-year phase project, but it begins the reconstruction of our terminal roadway on the outbound side. So from the baggage claim, as people then travel outbound, that portion will be reconstructed. So that starts this year also. Next one. So AAR, one of our largest tenants on the airport, we will be kicking off a pavement rehab project. A lot of the pavement in the apron area there needs to be replaced, so this fiscal year is the initial phase of that. As you can see, we have I think this is just for fiscal year 23 is at 9.1 million. I see Tara shaking her head. No, it's the total. Yeah, okay. This is a situation where we have a tenant, and but ultimately we're responsible for the pavement maintenance, and so we're going to begin the project. It is a multi-year program as far as how many years it's going to take us to do this project, but pretty significant investment for us. Next slide. So that's a picture of one of our boarding bridges and one of our new boarding bridges for one of our new the four gates that we have. So we have another 17 boarding bridges at the other gates in the terminal building that are 20+ years old and are in need of replacement due to obsolescence and maintenance. And so we're going to be beginning replacing them, and probably about 3 a year. And so that kicks off this year, and then we'll be phasing that over the next number of years. This is a project also that we are going to be kicking off in this fiscal year, and that just is an illustration of the existing restrooms that we have on our west concourse. And we have a number of gates out in that area, but we have the restrooms we have is just one set of restrooms, and they're relatively small. And so our plan is to expand those and also bring them up to ADA standards. But it's a customer service issue in that there really isn't enough space for the number of passengers and gates that we have in that area. So this is a project that we'll be starting also. At Wiley Post Airport, you can see the colored area there is our secondary runway, runway 17 right, 35 left. And the project that we'll be starting is to widen that runway. And that would ultimately allow better utility of the airfield. You can see obviously the main primary runway, and that's used by most of the aircraft. Widening that secondary runway would make it available for more aircraft that use the airport and allow for better utilization and better efficiency at the airport. So that's why we're kicking off that project. One of the things that we also want to do at Wiley Post is it really is in an urban area as an airport, and there is a perimeter fence there today, but it's not very substantial. And we want to update that fence and upgrade it, make it higher and more substantial, both from a wildlife perspective. Obviously, we try to keep wildlife off the airport, and just because it's in an urban environment too, to make sure curious people don't end up going on the airport. It just gives them some incentive not to do that. So it's so a project we'll be kicking off. It probably ultimately will be a multi-year project also just because of the size of it, but that's something that we want to begin moving on also. And then Charles Page Airport, Taxiway pavement rehabilitation is a project that we've targeted for there. Mike Maroney Aeronautical Center, variety of different things that are slated for that campus. There's lots of things going on there for those that are familiar. Multiple buildings, multiple uses, and these are just some of the things that have been targeted. As you can see, mechanical and electrical, some building improvements in some streets. And so just some of the highlights for that campus and Mike Maroney. So I wanted to next just point you to a handout that we've provided, and I did email this to you the other day, and it's essentially the spreadsheet of our projects. And wanted just to highlight and identify what some of the titles are, and so you can reference these projects and the timing and the location. So the location that you see on the left column of that spreadsheet, WPA is Wiley Post Airport, WRWA is Will Rogers. As you continue further in the document, you'll see MMAC is Mike Maroney Aeronautical Center, and CEPA is Charles E. Page Airport. And then you'll see the description of the projects, and from our PowerPoint presentation, we just highlighted a few of them, but this kind of gives you an idea of some of the detail of each of the projects that we have. And I wanted to make sure you had a copy of this, and so that's something you could reference. And if you had any particular questions about any of the line items in the particular, in the spreadsheet, certainly happy to answer any of those questions. I think for the most part, the descriptions are self-explanatory. There may be, we use a lot of acronyms in aviation, so we haven't used a whole lot of acronyms here that I can tell. So I think they're somewhat, for the most part, self-explanatory. But as you can see, a lot of the projects, based on the funding throughout the next years, are multi-year projects, which is not unusual for projects that we get involved in. So,
Okay.
I think you have to turn it on there, Bob.
I was just curious on the Wiley Post widening the 17R35L. Is that currently in use, that runway, or is that?
It is currently in use, yeah.
So that'll have to come down during
Yeah,
the,
we'll have to shut the runway down, obviously, during the construction progress.
what will that do for traffic out there?
Well, we have two other runways there. The other main north-south, and then 1331 at Wiley Post also. So I think it'll be okay as far as impact on airport. I would say if we were going to be doing work on the large runway, that would definitely have an impact on the airport.
Mm-hmm.
But the secondary runway, not as much of an impact.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any more questions? If not, is there a motion to receive the Oklahoma City Trust campaign? Thank you. The motion to receive the capital improvement plan passes. Next on the agenda is to elect a vice chair for the Oklahoma City Airport Trust effective July 28, 2022. And I'd like to entertain
I would
a
like
motion.
to nominate Trustee Stone to serve as vice chair.
And can we electronically entertain this
Yeah.
motion? And second? And the motion passes. Outstanding. Congratulations, Councilman Stone. Look forward to working with you. Next on the item is the director's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things before we, besides the reports that are listed there. As we get through halfway through our calendar year in 22, we continue to see good recovery of our passenger activity, but we are starting to see some of the headwinds that we're seeing in the industry. Our passenger numbers, we are doing well, but we're always benchmarking back to 2019. And we are still going to fall short of that. One of the reasons is we just haven't gotten back all of the flights and the seats that we had during 2019. And you may have seen some of the stories at the national level, and we've heard this directly from the airlines themselves, that a number of those flights they haven't put back into Oklahoma City, and a number of airports is they don't have enough pilots available to fly the airplanes. So that's been an impact. And I think we're also seeing the impact of the higher airfares. The fuel prices certainly have bumped up the airfares, and so we're seeing that also as an impediment for people flying. But I think we're still doing well and recovering. It just may take a little longer. I think when we began the year, we thought we'd be getting bumping right back up to 2019 numbers. But based on what the airlines are facing with workforce challenges and the price of airfares going up, it may take a little longer. I think the workforce issue is a timing issue. Hopefully they can replenish their pipeline for workforce and return those airplanes. But it's probably next year before we see some of that happen. The other reports are in your packet. If you have any questions about those, please let me know. I didn't have anything else.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Will Rogers World Airport.
Mr. Chairman, item A under Will Rogers is accepted of completed project for the Hangar 8 chilled water pump replacement. Item B is Amendment 2 for terminal building roof repairs and replacement increase of $57,979. Item C is amendment, this is for runway 1331, a decrease of $523,284.89. Item D is a change order. This is for the registry building HVAC for an increase of 90 calendar days. Item E is a change order. This is also for the terminal building roof repair, an increase of $24,085.85. Item F, change order. This is for the terminal building upper level deck structural repairs, increase of $289,533.10 and 90 days. Item G is a change order. Terminal renovation expansion phase 3, an increase of $18,220.72. Item H is resolution authorizing the purchase of floor coverings and carpet replacement, estimated amount of $300,000. Item I is a resolution rescinding and replacing its December 16, 21 resolution for the purchase of 2 Lone Star ProMaster shuttle buses from Creative Bus Sales in the amount of $245,790. Item J is resolution authorizing the purchase of audio-video equipment in the amount of $37,500. Item K, resolution revising Will Rogers World Airport Air Service Incentive Program. And item L, resolution to revise the airport trust dated February 24, 22, awarding air service incentives to Southwest Airlines' new nonstop service to San Antonio International Airport. Item M, project requirements, understanding, acknowledgements with Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Department of Homeland Security for a Federal Inspection Service Facility and Federal Inspection General Aviation Facility at Will Rogers Airport. Item N, amendment with lease agreement with Metro Tech Centers to exercise the first of 9 successive one-year options periods. Item O is amendment 2 with Delta Airlines for additional lease premises. And item P, aviation hazard agreement granted to the City of Oklahoma City and the trust by STK Developments, LLC. And that concludes those items.
Okay. You've heard the request for Will Rogers. Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. Next on the agenda is Wiley Post Airport.
Mr. Chairman, item A, resolution purchase order to perform roof repairs at Wiley Post Airport, an estimated amount of $12,377.13, and that's a change order, just to clarify. Item B is lease and operations agreement with Turbine Aircraft Services, LLC and Prosperity Bank. Item C is an assumption agreement and use guarantee for PWA Hangar Unit 1608. Item D is assumption agreement use guarantee T Hangar Unit 1808. Item E is aviation hazard easement granted to the trust by DETA LLC.
You've heard the request for Wiley Post. Any questions? Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. Next up is Clarence C. Page Airport.
Mr. Chairman, that's the assignment assumption agreement for Block 5, Lot 10.
Okay. Again, are there any questions? Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Next up on the agenda is general.
Item A, professional service agreement for security guard service with Tricor Security in an estimated amount of $1,253,245. Item B is amendment number 1 with Wisar Inc. doing DBA Funnel Design Group to renew the agreement to February 28, 2023. Item C, audit contract with Allen Gibbs Holick LLC to exercise the 6th and final annual renewal for the performance of the fiscal 21-22 annual audit.
Okay. Are there any questions? Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Next up is item 10, a resolution rectifying the action of the Director of Airports and approving the requisition dated July 28, 2022, and a resolution approving requisitions dated July 28, 2022. Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Are there any comments from trustees? We have a new one. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, you.
No, just to welcome our new trustee and appreciate Mr. Ross and being willing to serve on the Airport Trust, and looking forward to working with you.
We are happy to have you. You'll see that it's a small group, but pretty effective, hopefully.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with each one of you.
Okay. Any other comments? Is there any comments from staff? Are there any citizens wishing to be heard? If not, meeting's adjourned.